My name is Caroline Tadduni. I graduated from St. Joseph's University in 2020, and I'm currently employed at PricewaterhouseCoopers as a senior associate in their cyber risk and regulatory practice. So, my current role at the firm and the practice that I'm currently in is really all things client service. So, anything from a traditional internal audit to a system implementation to even SOX readiness, which is where my focus is, that's really where this practice comes into play. What I've really dove into is the SOX readiness piece, which is essentially taking companies over a span of 3 years and taking them from a private company to being a public company. So when a company becomes publicly traded, my team will come in and review all their business processes and make sure that they're really up to the standards that, say, an external auditor would expect from a public company. So you get to see the business go through a really big change. You get to understand a bunch of different processes from end to end, and you get to just see a ton of growth. So it's really fascinating and it's a great practice. So a typical path for entering a practice such as the Big Four is similar to the path that I went through. So I can probably just explain the process that I went through. So as a freshman, I came onto campus. I wasn't too familiar with the Big Four at that point and really the weight of what that type of career could do. But as I went through my introduction to accounting classes, I really started to learn more about how they impacted the industry. From there, I talked to different professors about what they think would be a good start for an accounting career. And I think something that the professors do really well is give a wide span of opportunities and what would be best. But in my case, Big Four track seemed like the best one. So as a freshman, I went to different Discover Days, went to the career fair, and tried to really just get my feet wet. And then got more into sophomore year, more experience under my belt, more knowledge about really what the industry has to hold, what the types of jobs would be. So, sophomore year, I went to different Discover Days at the office, got to network with people currently at different firms, including PwC. And from that, was able to obtain an interview for an internship that would fall after my junior year. Lucky enough, I was able to obtain an offer from PwC to intern with them that summer after my junior year. So from there, it was really a big growth period. I got to go and network with different people. I got to network with St. Joe's alumni, which, if you know anything about PwC Philadelphia, there are a lot of us. So the internship was a great experience, and it ultimately led to a full-time offer after graduation. So that really is the typical path. I think the Big Four, especially just because that's kind of my expertise with recruitment on campus, does a really great job of interacting with students and providing different opportunities to get involved. And, as you move from freshman to senior year, all those opportunities only increase. I can attribute a lot of the skills that I now have and what I grew in college to St. Joe's. I think the school does a fantastic job of providing a holistic education, whether it be just how you carry yourself, and also along with the actual education that you receive. Um, I think one of the top skills I believe is beneficial when you go into the workplace is really just being curious, uh, whether that be your first day on the job or if you're 15 years in. First day on the job being, okay, really, what is my day to day going to look like? Let's be curious and let's be ready to learn. 15 years into your job, you still need to be curious because the industry is changing. And I think that's something St. Joe's does really well. I can think of one professor in particular, Professor Reagan, does a really great job of preparing students to see, how is the accounting industry changing? And the big answer to that is technology. So specifically where I sit, I see myself 10, 20 years down the road still saying like, okay, what do I need to be curious on? What do I need to be growing in? So I think that's probably the top skill that I would say. I think St. Joe's has a lot of great activities on campus to help students get involved. Something that was particularly beneficial for me was joining the school's business fraternity, Delta Sigma Pi. I believe there were multiple, but that was the only one on campus at the time. And I truly think it shaped my experience both professionally and just as a whole person. What they do is really help students prepare to go to interviews. You learn how to write a business email, you learn how to dress professionally. And I think surrounding yourself with people who are equally motivated and equally ready to learn and grow is really only going to help as you go further into the recruitment process. Specifically for accounting as well, the Accounting Society is a great way to just get your feet wet. So, at least when I was there, I think it was 11 during community period, they would have different companies come in, whether it be a big four firm, a smaller consulting firm, or a company in industry, come in and talk to students about what their current employees are doing, what the different opportunities are. And also, a big part of that is bringing alumni back to campus to talk to current students and say, hey, I was in your shoes. This is what I would recommend, or, you know, this is kind of how this goes. It's really just a good way to guide students through the process. So those are just a couple things, but I think overall the school has so many different opportunities to meet people and get involved. And those are just a few that I had the fortunate experience with. Some networking tips that I would give to students would be to get your feet wet. I know I've said that a couple of times already, but I think something that's really important, even as a freshman, even if a freshman might not qualify for a full internship at that point, depending on what they're looking for, getting your feet wet, getting out there and talking to people. I think at 19, it can be pretty difficult to learn how to advocate for yourself. And good practice for that is going to the career fair. There's so many different companies that go, and even if it's a company you didn't have in mind at first, just going and talking to people, learning what they're about, and ultimately learning how to advocate for yourself, how to speak, how to clearly network, that's only going to help strengthen. So I think that's probably the biggest networking tip. Something else would be talking to your fellow students. Something that helped me a lot and great advice that I received was take a look at where other students, maybe upperclassmen, are going. Specifically, PwC in my case, I had upperclassmen that I very much looked up to, and I saw that a lot of them were going to PwC. And that was really an indicator for me, wow, like these are people that I really look up to, and these are people that I could be working with in the future. And those are the people that become your network. So I think that is very helpful as well. It's not just talking to companies, it's talking to the people you're sitting in class with. Diversity and inclusion means to me being open. And with that, it's really just expanding your horizons to people from all walks of life that you're going to meet. At 22, when I came into my career, I was working with people from all different countries, continents, Argentina, India, Europe, all over the place. And at 22, I think that was wonderful exposure because you're meeting people who might not have English as their primary language, who have different holidays, who have different work ethics than we have in the US. And being open to that is going to be so important, not just in your career, but in life. So you get to see different experiences that people go through, and it really helps shape you and your mindset when you go into situations, not just international, but every day. There are people that you work with every day who might have a different skin color, might have a different age or gender. And it's really just being open to their perspectives and then adjusting your perspective based on those experiences. So, one barrier I first experienced when I first came into the workplace was at 22, I was working in client service. And something that I learned very quickly was that client service, the skills that come with that often come only with experience. So, I was talking to clients, and I think seeing how young I was and obviously new to the industry did seem to diminished my credibility at first. So I felt the need to kind of catch up and prove, yes, I'm 22, but here's what I can do. Here's what I've learned. And I think that's something that my firm does very well. In that adjustment, there was never a time where I felt like I wasn't supported. Anything I was presenting to clients wasn't reviewed by somebody above me. It was really just adjusting to, okay, yes, you are 22, you have a lot to learn. And, I'm 26 now, I still have a lot to learn. But I think the more experience you get under your belt, barriers such as age that I felt like I was facing, that only, it goes down as you get more experience and you get more confident in your work. Something that I think would be really helpful is, again, getting your feet wet with educating yourself. So there are podcasts, books, endless resources that you can touch on that will help you become more dangerous, as I like to say. One thing that would be a helpful place to start, I think, would be a podcast called The Daily Brew. It's by the Morning Brew Company. Something that I listen to often when I'm on my way to work, 20, 30-minute episodes. And it's really just letting you know what's going on in the market today. And it's very attainable. It's not a ton of acronyms. It's not a ton of finance terms that you might not know. It's something that you can listen to and really just build on your knowledge, build on your vocab, and know what's going on. Something else that I think is really helpful and really shaped my work ethic and the way that I view myself on a team is a book called Think Again by Adam Grant. And the theme of that book is really on intellectual humility and accepting what you don't know. And I think whether you're 26 and really still at the beginning of your career, or 20 years in and still learning, still growing, but a lot more experienced, accepting what you don't know and being open to learn, I think, is one of the greatest skills you can have. I think sometimes you can come into the workplace really wanting to prove yourself and showing what you know, and that's valuable. But at the same time, you're coming into a place where, a lot of people around you are very smart, and that shouldn't be seen as a threat. It should be seen as an opportunity to learn from them and grow. I think learning earlier on, being comfortable with getting uncomfortable. I think I learned that probably later in my college years. But I think as a freshman, maybe going into an experience, knowing, okay, this is going to be uncomfortable, this is going to feel weird, this is going to feel out of my element, and doing it anyway. I think that can be a really big challenge, but ultimately the most rewarding. How do you do that? I would say continuing to ask questions. Again, coming in ready to learn. And that can be from employers at the career fair, it can be from your professors too. Something that I also learned later in my career is how much of a network your professors are and how much they truly just want to see you succeed. I think that's something that's so unique about St. Joe's, and my experience there is there were so many professors who truly cared about where you were going and what your interests were and what was going to be the most beneficial for you. So, realizing the network around you and being ready to grow, I think is something, if you can know from day one, you're already ahead of the game.